Brothers, good evening. This is Michael Church, I'm Executive Director of Sigma Chi. We appreciate you all taking time this evening to join us for this town hall to talk about what we're going to be doing over the summer with the traditional schedule of summer events. As for me, I'm the Executive Director of the Sigma Chi International Fraternity. I graduated from the University of Illinois in 2005 and am pleased to be moderating the call this evening. Just as a quick run through our agenda today, we have 6 panelists that I'll introduce momentarily. Today's town hall, we're going to start with discussion on Grand Council and the decisions the Executive Committee made relative to Grand Council. We'll move into our Horizons Huntsman Leadership Summit and the decisions we made relative to that. And then we'll finish up with Kroc Transformational Leaders Workshop and the decisions relative to that. Following those presentations, we will take about a 40 to 45 minute period of question and answer at the end to allow brothers from all over to have additional questions answered that may not have been answered throughout the presentations. This webinar is being recorded and will be distributed after the event to a broader audience for those who are unable to join us tonight. So without further ado, I want to introduce our distinguished panels tonight. Starting right at the top of the list, of course, our most distinguished Grand Consul, our 71st Grand Consul, Brother Steve Schuyler. He's an Arizona graduate, 1979, currently lives in Tucson, and is just back from a small vacation away from the fraternity while he recovered. It's wonderful to have you back, Brother Schuyler, leading the charge. Next up, we have Grand Proconsul Tim Sanderson. He's a Western Ontario 1985 graduate, currently lives in Toronto with his lovely wife Lisa. We're grateful to have you on the call tonight, Tim. Following Tim, we have 59th Grand Consul Dick Hester. Currently lives in Indianapolis with his just outside of Indianapolis with his wife Vicky. Thank you very much for taking the time, Dick. Dick is chairman of the Horizons Operating Board. And next up, we have 68th Grand Consul Michael Greenberg. Brother Greenberg is currently a San Diego resident, graduated from Illinois Wesleyan in 1982, and currently the chairman of the Sigma Chi Leadership Institute, as well as the North American Inter-Fraternity Conference. Thank you, Mike, for taking the time. Next, we have Jim Cogdell, who's a Bradley graduate, 2003, lives just outside of Chicago. He's the executive director of the Sigma Chi Leadership Institute. Grateful to have your time on the call tonight, Jim. And finally, a man that probably needs no introduction to those of you who came to workshop last year, but we're going to introduce him tonight anyway. Jeff Twyble is a UC Davis graduate, 1999. He is the chairman of Team Kroc, and we're grateful to have you on the phone with us tonight, Jeff. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Grand Consul Steve Schuyler to give us some opening remarks, and turn it over to you, Brother Schuyler.
Thank you, Mike. Brothers, so much has happened since January 1st and even more since last weekend. With the major impact COVID-19 has had on the fraternity, we thought it scheduled the Sigma Chi Town Hall tonight. Your executive committee met this past weekend and after spirited discussion made several difficult decisions outlined in the press release of May 4th. On this virtual meeting, we were briefed by experts in the fields of epidemiology, higher education, interfraternal activities, as well as the economic impact on our fraternity and our investment portfolio. All the experts concurred that summer gatherings would present a risk to participants in the surrounding community, that operating boards and fraternity leadership presented recommendations which were acted on and will be covered throughout this webinar, that we know this presents a major disruption to the traditional summer schedule, but we feel this is in the best interest of the fraternity and its members, that no one could have ever imagined this scenario, but no one is better prepared to respond to this than Sigma Chi. I am hopeful that all of you will find these presentations helpful in understanding how Sigma Chi fraternity is dealing with the challenges presented by this pandemic. Let me introduce Brother Tim Sanderson, who will discuss Grand Council 2020. Tim?
Hello, brothers. Good to be with you, and good evening. I've been asked to give you a brief update on Grand Council. As Steve, our worthy Grand Consul, alluded to last weekend, the EC met and we had to make some difficult decisions. One of those was moving Grand Council. Originally in January, on January 3rd, the EC met and made the decision to have a virtual Grand Council this year. And that was driven primarily by cost savings. In hindsight, it was a smart decision. Unfortunately, who would have predicted how much the world had changed? And due to health and safety reasons, we need to slide it back into the fall. Even though it was a virtual meeting, we still have about a dozen or so speakers that will be coming to headquarters to speak, and we didn't feel it was even safe to do that. So we're moving the main core of Grand Council into the fall to be aligned with the fall EC meeting. Again, it'll be the members of Grand Council who will attend, and you'll see the members are there, past Grand Consuls, Grand Prators, Grand Trustees, and the undergraduate province delegates. So more information will be following once we set a date in the fall, but just to let you all know that that has been moved. If I could get next slide, Dakota. What I will share with you is as far as that event will be broadcast on a platform that will allow for guests to participate and hear the leadership of our fraternity speak. State of reports will be provided by all four entities at that event. We're going to be using a platform that's called a virtual shareholder platform that's provided by Broadridge, and they provide it to major corporations and allow for an opportunity for us to have an interactive discussion, to have secure voting, and to have discussion on the issues of the day. When we looked at Grand Council, there was nothing that was pressing, so we felt it would, in light of the world, uncertainty in the world, we thought it was better to move that into the fall when we have a bit more clarity on where the fraternity and the organization will be moving. So that event will be recorded and it'll be available and shared with all the membership after that fact. We will, though, be going forward with a special session of Grand Council on June 27th, the original date of Grand Council. And this will be a shortened version, and the primary piece of business will be the election of the undergraduate reps to the executive committee. And in order to do that, we need to have quorum and need to open Grand Council. So we're going to have a shortened version of Grand Council. We're going to hear from our Grand Consul to give us a state of the fraternity report. And we'll also be accepting reports from the various entities in hard copy, as well as from all the international fraternity committees that will be shared out to everyone as well. So we will be doing that part of the business, and we will be conducting caucuses earlier in that week as planned with the Grand Trustees meeting, the undergrad caucus meeting, as well as the Prators. So again, the key order of business is the election of the undergraduate reps to the EC. They serve on for a one-year term, and we feel it's important that we continue with that election in June. So as far as Dakota, if I can get you to switch the slide. Back one, sorry. Just to make note, the undergrads, the process for election of undergrad reps, you need 5% of the undergraduate chapters to support your nomination. This presentation will be shared out, and there's a hyperlink in here under the word nominations that you can click on that for any undergrad that does want to find out more about that process. Each of the candidates, once qualified, will be given an opportunity to share a short video with the undergraduate delegates in advance, and then as well in person on June 27th. There'll be a separate meeting just for the undergrad caucus, and they will elect their undergraduate reps, so they'll be given an opportunity to speak there as well. Again, there's 2 undergrad reps to be elected. At the moment, we have, you can go back, Dakota, that we have 6 candidates that are close to or have met that 5% threshold qualification as of today, and there's a few more that are in the works. So if you're an undergrad brother, I encourage you to take a look at this and consider running for this position. It's an important position. You'll serve on the executive committee, as I said, for a one-year term, and it's a great opportunity to learn more about our organization and be an advocate for the undergraduate brothers. With that, I will pass it back to Mike Church.
Thank you, Brother Sanderson. I appreciate you going through that overview of Grand Council. Again, obviously not an ideal circumstance, but I appreciate your leadership as chairman of the Grand Council and helping us modify our adjustments accordingly so we can still have the meetings of the Grand Council in some form of reliable fashion. So thank you, Tim, for your leadership. Appreciate it. We'll move on now to the Horizons Huntsman Leadership Summit. I'm going to start with the SCLI Chairman, 68th Grand Council Michael Greenberg, for some remarks, and then he'll turn it over to 59th Grand Council Dick Hester, the Chairman of the Horizons Operating Board. Mike, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Brother Church. Well, SCLI has been busy during this COVID-19 pandemic in trying to figure out what's the new way of virtual learning we could inspire and bring to our undergraduate brothers to help. You've seen some of those programs recently released, such as our COVID-19 Strong Arms for mental health, as well as a new recruiting piece that you can use to do online that was approved by the executive committee. As far as this summer goes with educational programming, we had two difficult decisions to make as it related to our Horizons program and our KTLW. And it was the feeling of the SCLI board that really out of empathy and compassion for our brothers, for our alumni brothers that had to facilitate, given so many people are suffering financial hardships all the way up and down the line, that even if we were to come back to normalcy in August, which doesn't look relevant, given everything we've heard, that it should be a time to continue to focus on family and continuing to secure your position. And there's plenty of time to volunteer in Sigma Chi. It was that we made the recommendation to cancel all educational programmings live and in person, but start to adopt our curriculum to a virtual format. One of those was the Horizons curriculum. And what we did with Horizons curriculum, given the close proximity of the brothers and how that program is run, we felt we couldn't preserve the integrity and safety and the health and welfare of our individuals by having that program go on. So we quickly worked with Brother Hester, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, and asked him to engage the Horizons Operating Board and suggest for those 250 undergraduates that were accepted, how could we not lose the momentum and continue our enduring leadership evolution into providing leaders that could lead the way in the future. And so I'm going to turn over to Brother Hester, our 59th Grand Council, to explain some of those creative ideas and share with you what we're going to do for the juniors that were accepted and for everybody else that was accepted. And rest assured that SCLI, your educational arm of the fraternity and the foundation, is going to be fast developing curriculum, and I'll be here to answer questions later on. Brother Hester?
Thank you, Brother Greenberg. Brothers, as Brother Greenberg said, I want you to know the Horizons Board endorsed SCLI's recommendation to cancel the Horizons program this summer, particularly the Huntsman Leadership Summit aspect of it on the mountain, just for the safety of our brothers. But we want to be sure that those brothers who applied this year, and I can tell you, the whole board was amazed. We probably had the best group of quality applications that we've ever had. We were so impressed with our undergraduate brothers, the thoughtfulness of their applications, their essays this year. It kills us that we can't have the program this summer. But for those of you who were accepted to the Horizons program, starting with the Huntsman Leadership Summit at Snowbird, if you have still a year or two left of school, because we had a number of freshmen and sophomore apply, you will automatically get a position next year during our programs. We will ask you, to be fair to the other people who will be applying, to give us a confirmation by February 1st. But we will get you the dates of those 5 sessions well in advance. You can plan your summer around it. You earn that spot, you earn that scholarship, and we will make sure that you have that opportunity to attend the program in its entirety. We did have 59 juniors who were accepted to the program. And obviously it breaks our heart that we cannot give you the full Huntsman Leadership Summit experience on the mountain, as well as that follow-up for the next year until you graduate. So the Horizons Board is meeting in a similar format that we are tonight in the next couple of weeks. And we can't bring you the Horizons experience, we know that. But we're developing a very special leadership opportunity program for the U59 who were accepted into the program. And we're going to be able to offer it in a seminar kind of format like we're doing here. We will still have some support for you until you graduate from different guides who have been qualified to support you. So we're not going to let you down, and we're going to give you the best experience we possibly can via this type of educational e-learning, because you deserve it. And I'll be around too to answer any of the questions that you might have. See, Greenberg, I didn't take as long as you thought I was going to.
Well, we were only given 5 minutes, and that's tough for the both of us, so.
You're right on the money.
Their goal.
Excellent. Thank you, brothers. I appreciate both of your brevity and succinctness, as well as your completeness in delivering that information, as unfortunate as it is. Chairman of Team Kroc, Jeff Twyble, is having some technical difficulties, so he's going to try to dial back in. He'll join us momentarily. But for now, I'll turn it over to Brother Jim Cogdell, who's the Executive Director of Sigma Chi Leadership Institute, to give us a high-level overview of the process on KTLW and what we're going to be doing with it this year. And then if Jeff's able to join us back on the webinar, he'll pick up where Jim's ready to hand off. So I'm turn it over to Jim first. Oh, and there's Jeff, able to come back and join us just in time. Thank goodness. Now we can talk about KTLW. So let's first start with Jim. He'll give us a high-level overview, and I think he's going to turn it over to Jeff to walk through some of the specifics. Thank you, brothers, for taking the time.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And just in time, Jeff. Didn't want to make sure that we got everything, all the time you need to go over workshop and KTLW. So thank you for working through all of those technical difficulties. Thanks a lot, Mike, and thank you to all of those who have spoken before us, and just reaffirming from Sigma Chi Leadership Institute that obviously we are in unforeseen circumstances, and never would we want to have to be kind of forced our hand into what we will be rolling out in terms of virtual learning. We obviously very much treasure our brotherhood and our in-person connections, and soon enough we will be back working on those and developing and deploying the curriculum for those as we build forward here next summer. But this summer, we will focus on making sure that we provide our undergraduates and brothers the best leadership experience, albeit digital, that anyone can offer them. We are very excited about a lot of the pivoting that our operating boards have done in order to bring forward some of these recommendations, like the one that Brother Hester and Brother Greenberg just mentioned, and especially this virtual KTLW option that we are bringing forward. You'll see a little bit of that from Jeff on the call here tonight, and we're very excited to make sure that we get all of our officers trained and ready for their positions as we head into the fall. Now, for our role at Sigma Chi Leadership Institute and with the Team Kroc Operating Board, we were handed a charge, a joint charge from the fraternity's executive committee to really kind of come up with contingency plans, in case the COVID pandemic ended up where it has today. So we were asked to go through all of the different variables of hosting workshop. Obviously with our ideal of it being in person, but also being asked, what would a virtual version of KTLW look like? So inevitably, the Team Kroc Steering Committee, the great work by Jeff Twyble, Chairman, Ryan Wakefield, Vice Chairman, that entire team, and then staff support, Jeremy Osborne, put together a very robust and detailed virtual option here that you will see on the call tonight. So that was the first big piece. Second one was really having to do that we took into consideration with a virtual workshop was all of the different pieces that were happening around workshop, and we have so many moving pieces to make that experience work and work very well. Our volunteers and our undergraduates' health and safety and their life circumstances were at utmost priority for us. So one of the requests was really trying to make sure that we avoid putting any undue strain on our alumni volunteers and undergraduate members, given COVID-19. We have the best volunteers in the entire Greek industry. And we wanted to, certainly understand that a lot of them are going through professional, financial, family, distress right now, given everything that's going on. So 4 days, ends up being Wednesday through Sunday is certainly very difficult to swing, given the circumstances. So knowing that on the alumni side, and with undergraduates, we're getting case-by-case reports about what universities and colleges are doing to prepare for either coming back in the fall and being thrown right into recruitment, but also, some universities are already planning to start online. So our undergraduates are going through in an adaptation period about what their fall will look like. So we all obviously wanted to be respectful of that. So what you'll see here from Jeff is a schedule and a plan that really works toward flexibility for both alumni and undergraduates, and still captures the officer training experience that we need from CRACHT Transformational Leaders Workshop. And the last part, and this is always one that Mike Greenberg stresses from our SCLI board, is make sure that we go offer the best technology and the best operations platforms to offer our undergraduates the best learning environment possible. So from Sigma Chi Leadership Institute's perspective, working with the fraternity's executive committee to use new technologies and platforms to make this the most streamlined and enhanced user experience possible heading into the summer. So those are all of the pieces that we were charged with, and that was our mission, as a Sigma Chi Leadership Institute and Team CRACHT operating board. What now Brother Twyble is going to show you and walk you through is the exact development that committee, that operating board, has really kind of enhanced and thrived to produce over the course of the last 2 weeks. So a big thank you to that group, and Jeff, I hand the baton over to you. Jeff, I don't think we can hear you.
I think everyone is really happy about the fact that we can't hear Jeff speak right now, but we'll get him on soon.
So much for our great offering of technology proficiency that we guarantee. Thank you, Brother Twyble.
As Jeff is getting himself set up there, let me just handle one or two questions that have been sent in that'll be good placeholders while Jeff gets his microphone worked out. There's a question about in our question panel about guidance for chapters when they'll be going back regarding social functions, philanthropy events, chapter meetings, and other events. Brothers, I'm pleased to announce that over the next couple of weeks, we will be distributing further webinar invitations to cover individual topics around the areas of resuming chapter operations come the fall. Everything from chapter house maintenance and reopening chapter houses, which will be for house corporation officers, chapter leadership, etc., to recruitment and doing recruitment in a virtual setting, and so on and so on. So be on the lookout for future invitations that are coming out from the fraternity for these specific webinars. And then in addition, we're going to be circulating some resources that were put together by the North American Inter-Fraternity Conference through a think tank of the brightest minds in the interfraternal industry on best practices for preparing for fraternity membership in the fall. So there's a lot of stuff that's still going on around COVID-19, and as things develop over the course of the summer, we'll be able to adjust our operating protocols. But rest assured, we have a lot of recommendations forthcoming to you to be able to prepare for the fall and make sure our chapters are in prime condition to be able to succeed come the fall. Let me go back to Jeff. Jeff, any chance we got that microphone worked out for you?
Let's move.
Try again, Jeff.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Barely.
Oh my gosh.
There you are.
Victory. I just had a wonderful thing. You can thank
Victory lap.
my company for doing the classic, right when you're on a conference call, massive restart on your whole system. You know, the ones you can't get out of. So when you guys get to the real world out there, my undergraduate brothers, enjoy that. You probably don't recognize me. Let me put on my glasses there so you know who I am. My name is Jeff Twyble, the chairman of Team Croc. We now call it Quarantine Croc because we were all stuck in our homes. But we're very excited to be able to talk to you today about the way we're able to pivot very quickly to be able to provide to you all much needed leadership experiences and education, as we know you're navigating a very uncertain reality right now, and you're dealing with a lot of crazy things that you've had to kind of ultimately adjust yourself and adjust your chapters to be able to meet the new reality. And I want to thank all the leadership in Sigma Chi and the leadership and our executive committee and SCLI, knowing how important this time is to still be able to invest in you, in an experience, so that you ultimately come back to your chapters best prepared for the new reality and ultimately achieve your strategic goals for the year. So we're very excited to be able to do that. I also, before I get going, I have to take my hat off to the entire team, Quarantine Croc, to our steering committee, who for literally the last 3 weeks straight, conference calls every night to be able to take a very existing structure and completely pivot it and turn it on its ear. So thank you so much, brothers, for all your hard work. So let's get to it. Next slide. All right, let's do some quick hits. This year's workshop will be 100% officer-focused training. As much as we would love to continue all of our values-based leadership learning and expand our continuum of content, we know, we heard it from you loud and clear, that right now it's really important that for those of you that are recently elected into your office, or those that are continuing your current role, that you need the support and training to be effective in that space. So this year we're going to focus specifically on officers focused training. It's going to be comprised of both self-driven online learning sessions, as well as small group virtual discussions led by specially trained KTLW facilitators. In all of the feedback we hear each and every year, the connections and the time that are spent in that small group discussion is mission critical. And we wanted to make sure that we utilized all the technologies at our disposal to be able to give you that same opportunity. And we also know that learning uses several facets in order for that to stick, in order for that to be effective, and therefore we're using all of these technologies to bring you the best experience possible. As stated before, if we were to try to cram all of this into 3 days, that would be very difficult. Not only are we tasked with ensuring that we're very balanced in our approach and learning, but we need to be cognizant of your time needs. We need to be cognizant of our alumni facilitators' time needs. So we've taken that level of content and stretched it out over a period of 2 weeks. And this will afford you the opportunity of many different scheduling options for your virtual small group sessions. We want to make sure that you can attend them all and do so in a time frame that makes sense for you. And ultimately, just as you've grown accustomed to some form of incentive or financial incentive through your travel stipend, we wanted to make sure that you were supported with financial incentives for full participation. So those are included this year as well. Next slide, please. Awesome. Wow, that's a lot of words, Jeff. You're right, person on the screen. This is a very simplistic way to start to demonstrate to you what you will experience when you go to VKTLW this year. We are going to have pre-learning, as you have in the past. It may not be as robust because you don't need to know where the dorms are, and you don't need to know where the dining commons is. So we're going to skip that part for you this year. But you will have some pre-KTLW knowledge checks. So you're going to answer some questions about your role and see where you are in your current understanding of it. There's some officer training e-learning modules to complete. And if you're a Magister or Custos, you'll have specialized content for P4B and R4L. Then we get into the work. And we're going to kick off workshop just like any other with a virtual opening. There's going to be an introduction video, and then you get into your coursework. And that online learning component starts then. So you're going to have 4 topics that are going to be broken up in different segments over the period of 2 weeks. Officer topic 1, and then you're going to have a small group virtual session following that. Then we jump into module 2 and another groupings of small group virtual sessions, and so on and so forth through the course of the week. We're also going to seed in some KTLW experiences. We want to make sure that this feels like workshop, even though you're doing so from the comfort of your own home. And that means we are calling it significant inspiration videos, keynote addresses, elements like that, up into including awards at the end. So we want to make sure that we are bringing the KTW experience to you so that you have that opportunity to learn and build bonds with your brothers. Next slide, please. All right, we're going to dive in a little bit more in the details. I already talked about the online learning. You're probably saying that's a lot of content, and it is, but it's ultimately 8 total hours of content over 2 weeks. There's going to be 4 officer-specific modules that you'll experience. They're going to range anywhere between 45 minutes and 60 minutes each. And then after that, you'll have a 60-minute session with your small group and your facilitator. And those will keep rolling all the way through until you're all done. It is mandatory attendance. We want to make sure that every single officer that normally goes to a KTLW has all the tools that they need to succeed. And a lot of our topics in the small group discussions are going to be about how do you apply your role now in the new reality. So it's absolutely mission critical that you not only participate in full, but you participate from front to back. And that means our consuls, our pro-consuls, our quaestors, our magisters, our recruitment chairmen, our risk managers, and our ritual chairman should all attend. We're also going to have a section for our expansion faculty to be able to help and work with our colony members. As I said before, more details on this to follow, but there'll be financial incentives as well as prizing for those that attend fully and participate fully. And ultimately, we want to bring that workshop swagger in a virtual setting. Like I said before, an opening, a closing, awards, all the things that you could come to expect, except for the dorm food, you'll be able to experience at this virtual workshop. And lastly, and most importantly, registration is going to start soon, literally right around May 15th. And you would register as you normally would for a workshop. We're very excited about this. I've already seen some of the early content videos as produced by our teams, and they have done an unbelievable job to keep the material concise, to keep it impactful, and ultimately be meaningful to your role. And I'm so very proud of what's already been developed by our team, and there's still a lot of work to go. Next slide, please. And that's it for me. So any questions, I'm happy to answer it as we get to that section.
Thank you, brothers. You were exceedingly sharp in your messaging this evening and left extra time for Q&A. So we have 52 minutes until this session closes for this evening. So we'll dive right into the Q&A. Just as a quick set of instructions on how to do the Q&A, there's a panel on the right-hand side of your screen, unless you've moved it or you're on a mobile version, but there's a question component of that where you can type in your questions, and we have a team of headquarters staffers behind the scenes who are fielding those questions and preparing those to be asked. As we give you all a few minutes to just get your questions asked, I want to make one special announcement tonight. Tonight we are releasing information about the strong arms for COVID-19. This is courtesy of the Sigma Chi Leadership Institute, who took the lead on putting this together. Brothers, we know that this is a time unprecedented in modern history, with all of us sheltering at home, and that causes all kinds of challenges for us from a mental health and wellness perspective. So Sigma Chi Leadership Institute previously has partnered with the JED Foundation to create the curriculum for Strong Arms, and we felt it was important to take that curriculum and make it available in a broad way for all members of Sigma Chi to access. So we are very excited to announce that if you go to sigmachi.org/strong-arms-COVID, you'll find all kinds of resources there from Sigma Chi for you to use for your mental wellness. We want to make sure that all of you are taken care of. So let's get after it, and let's get to the Q&A, and we'll start right out of the chute with a Grand Council question. This is for Brother Sanderson. I think there was a question, Tim, about whether the program would be accessible to non-Grand Council attendees to see or hear the meeting. We got you on mute, Tim.
There we go.
There he
Okay,
is.
yes, the answer is yes, you can be a guest. As far as for the special meeting, we are going to limit that to the number just because of the technology we're using. We're using the same technology as this, the GoToWebinar. And the platform we're using in the fall for the 4-hour meeting will be open up to 1,000 brothers to come as guests to view that, and it'll also be recorded.
Awesome. Thank you, Brother Sanderson. We had a couple of questions related to this subject. So I'm going to ask SCLI Chairman Mike Greenberg to give us a quick update on the accreditation / state licensing efforts that SCLI has undertaken. Mike, would you give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, we've haven't slowed down our process. As you know, this was the big year. We were anticipating getting approval sometime in the July-August timeframe. Because of COVID. The state of Illinois was processing applications quickly. Brother Cogdell and I have been working with our administrator in the state of Illinois. We are very hopeful, fingers crossed, that we'll have 4 certificates approved by no later than June 15th. But, you know, if there's more questions from some of the administrators with the Board of Education, we'll have to go back and forth. But all systems go so that by next year, school year, when things return to normal, we're going to be able to grant our first ever Board of Education certificates in 4 disciplines, as well as we're going to be able to grandfather past people in on certain programs, specifically Workshop and Horizon. So we'll have some exciting news coming, perhaps in another webinar or perhaps in an infomercial as we get to August at Workshop for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Brother Twyble, I'm going to throw a question over to you, and this is primarily about who can participate in the upcoming workshop. We're getting a number of questions about, is there going to be a limit per chapter? Is there going to be certain types of individuals? Are we going to limit this just to officers, or can we make this available to more members of the chapter? I wonder if you might just comment more broadly on who might be invited to participate in VKTLW.
Yeah, happy to do that. Ultimately, that decision comes down to the amount of available faculty that we have. And so that's a little bit of a TBD. Right now, we want to make sure that all of the officers in those roles that are in the chapter system are the ones that register first. And so we want to make sure we start there. Ultimately, as we vet through and determine the number of facilitators we have, obviously create better bandwidth for us, and it is definitely our interest and it is our wish to be able to expand that a bit. But ultimately, we need to be just mindful of bandwidth and personnel to be able to pull this off. So if you wouldn't mind on that, just taking a pause until we really be able to vet through how much we can ultimately accommodate. And then certainly if the bandwidth is there, we do want to go beyond our normal 7 officers for this workshop. And I do want to call out, Brother Sanderson, are you in a castle? Because that's impressive. Look at you. My gosh. Wow.
Oh, Jeff, we love you, man. Jeff, might you speak to since we've gotten you here, might you speak to the process of facilitator selection and what their training might look like, timelines for facilitator selection, and so on?
Yeah, as you can imagine, this is one of our major action steps that after this call, Quarantine Croc goes into yet another call to start to work through and vet through those logistics. As one can imagine, the skill set required to be an in-person facilitator may not necessarily line up with the skill sets required to be a virtual facilitator. And so those are some of the things that we're going to have to ultimately understand, list out, and look at everybody's skill sets so we can make sure that our undergraduate experience is an amazing one. What that might ultimately mean is that we may not be able to utilize all of our facilitators that we have in the past. And ultimately we need to kind of figure that out and roll through. So those will occur over the next 3 weeks as we ultimately start to build this matrix out. Part of that too is what does training look like? And training is going to be a bit different. Certainly there's going to be your officer related training as you've come to expect in workshops in the past, but there's also going to be additional training. How does one use the LMS system, the brand new LMS system that we're ultimately working through and working on? How does one more effectively be able to have that virtual conversation and be able to draw great insight from your small group out? How does one navigate talking and chatting all at the same time? Because it's multiple things going on. So the training will be a bit different this year. Training will likely commence in early June for officer specific training. And then in early July, we will then shift over to LMS based, which is learning management system, as well as virtual facilitation training.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to go shift gears a little bit and go over back to the Horizon side of the equation. There's a question asked that might have some relevance, and I'm going to ask Brother Greenberg to address this, and then Brother Hester, if you have any additional comments. The question was asked about the possibility of just adding another session or two next summer, and related to that, about the funding for Horizons and what's going to happen with the funds that are not used this year, and how we might make those available in the future. So maybe the two of you could comment on that, those two topics together.
Well, if you want to see Dick's eyeballs pop out, let me go first. But it's an interesting question, one that I think both Brother Hester and I are willing to explore. It's dependent on a lot of variables. First, could we get the funding for a sixth session from either our primary donor or new donor? Do we have the resources available and facilitators? You might not be aware of this, but every year we train 16 new facilitators, which Dick will say, and that's on hold too for September. We had a major update of curriculum coming for next year, and so we want to make sure that we're ready to go and staffed accordingly with our training of facilitators. And then frankly, Snowbird has to be prepared and have the facilities available to us. But we will take it under advisement. We'll ask our funding source, the foundation, if it's a possibility, if there's people out there that would want to take those juniors and put them through an immersion unto themselves. It could be fascinating to look at and study and collect data on. But Brother Hester, anything you'd like to add?
No, I agree, Brother Greenberg. We're obviously going to look at every option from that standpoint. As you mentioned, there are some obstacles. You know, we have enough facilitators. Does Snowbird even have the space? But we're certainly going to take it into consideration. We're going to make sure that everybody gets the best experience they can possibly get. We are concerned, obviously, because if everybody that gets accepted this year goes next year, that limits the number of spots that we have to offer to new people who apply next year. So, you know, we're looking at a variety of different reasons and resources and ways to accommodate as many brothers that apply that get accepted. So,
Right.
So if anybody's got any extra money out there, we'd be happy to take it. I'm going to say that before Twyble did.
Send it our way, Twyble.
One of the most serious questions we've received is for Brother Hester. He said, just an anonymous contribution, but it says, does Dick Hester realize he was the second favorite son of Joe and Helen Hester?
Oh.
I have a feeling to know who submitted that question.
Perhaps your brother. He's chuckling right now. We'll go to a more serious question. This will go back to Brother Twyble. Might you comment on what workshop might look like for colonies?
Well, it's our goal in this effort to be able to continue the educational path that we've had before for our expansion teams. Clearly, times are different. So we are going to be meeting with the expansion faculty team, leadership executive team, to be able to dialogue about in what ways can we shift and alter the content to still be able to answer all the questions and to be able to address all the needs that you have as a developing colony, but also to steer it toward in what ways can we help you position yourself, organize yourself through these unprecedented times. So you might get a little bit extra that you may not have received last year, clearly because the times are different. But it is our intention to ensure that educational program for you helps move you along in your process at the appropriate rate.
Thanks, Jeff. Brother Cogdell, I'm going to send a question your way, and this is around the applicants for Horizons this year. Might you comment on the notification process that went out this year and any subsequent notifications that'll be going out to those that were either accepted or those that were unable to be accepted for this year, and when they might be hearing back?
Yeah, excellent question. So we are, as we speak, Brother Hester and Brian Wilson from our Educational Operations Department, who is the Horizons lead on SCLI staff, are going to be are putting the final touches on the notification process for all accepted Horizons attendees. We held on notifying all of the attendees originally because of a lot of the up in the air circumstances regarding the first couple of sessions. So we didn't want anyone to be able to declare sessions right away until we knew for sure that those sessions were going to be happening. So there will be a notification coming out here in the next several days on behalf of the Horizons Operating Board and Brother Hester that explains the circumstances for those who are able to and eligible to attend next year, and then also for those junior brothers who will be offered an alternative leadership training webinar courtesy of both of Horizons Operating Board. Sound anything you'd like to add on that one, Brother Hester?
No, you nailed it, Cardinal.
Excellent. Go back to Brother Twyble. You speak to the process for chapter advisor training at workshop this year. Will there be any combo this year or any other form of chapter advisor training in association with virtual KTLW?
I might actually defer this question up to either Brother Cogdell or Brother Greenberg, just because our focus has been purely on the undergraduate content for right now.
Yeah. So I did actually have a call with a person on our SCLI board this morning, Brother Kurt Biller, who has championed that chapter advisor training. And in like manner, we're trying to offer the virtual chapter advisor training during that same workshop session, but in an alumni track unto itself. So we will get started onto that. He also is working on other alumni training sessions as well. So I'll make sure I reinforce that Kurt should move fast and furious.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. I think that's a good answer. You're really good at being concise tonight. I love that. We're moving along, plowing through these questions. Let me take some of the questions that are coming in around the finances. There's a number of questions on dues. So I'm just going to tackle some of these. First on the issue of refunds for dues paid this year. The executive committee did discuss that at some level. Just to help everyone kind of understand, when you pay dues in a given year, particularly membership dues, those are for your membership for a lifetime. So executive committee is not going to be refunding any of the membership dues on an individual brothers pay, as those are obviously getting you access to services and networking for the rest of your life. None of that, of course, has been interrupted by COVID. With respect to the leadership fees that chapters pay throughout a year, those are actually paying for all kinds of programming opportunities that the fraternity puts on, as well as the workshop that happened in retro. So the fees that were paid in the fall of 2019 and the spring of 2020 actually apply to the workshop that was put on in the summer of 2019. So the executive committee is putting together a number of financial scenarios for next fiscal year, which is the 2020-2021 fiscal year. And among those is the possibility of reduced leadership fees. We haven't decided on that yet. The executive committee does not adopt the budget until the end of June, and they don't set the leadership fees until the end of August. But those requests are in consideration as we go forward and looking at the budgets for next year. It may not be feasible given the financial circumstances around COVID and things of that sort, but you do have a commitment from Grand Quaestor Ryan Temby, who's participating in the webinar tonight, as well as Brother Sanderson, Schuyler, and myself, that we are absolutely aware of those issues and take those under serious consideration. Let me move back to VKTLW. Brother, either maybe Twyble or Cogdill, if you could comment on strategic planning and individual chapter strategic planning sessions.
That we can do. Real popular tonight. I think it's the beard. I'm pretty sure it's what it is. Yeah, so for this year, whereas we've normally had in the past designated chapter sections by which the strategic planning process ultimately manifests, we are still working on what that might look like for this year. In the current state, we're focusing primarily on the officer training component, knowing that we ultimately have to make some decisions over what's considered mission critical and what's considered things that we'd love to do. As we move through the officer training component, that means reformatting all the training. That means putting it into video and to on-screen form. That means rewriting the scripting and workbooks for our faculty. Then our interest is to certainly look at by what ways can we reincorporate strategic planning potentially post VKTLW, but we're not there yet. So that's a kind of a stay tuned moment. As you can imagine, this work has existed over the last 3 weeks of time, and it's been an awful lot. So we're taking these piece by piece by piece, but no, I think I want my undergraduate brothers to know that even if strategic planning does not exist at a workshop, it is still absolutely mission critical that you do that yourselves. And whether that's with the support of a KTLW facilitator, your chapter advisor, your Grand Praetor, those strategic plans ultimately tell you where you're going and how far you've come. And so I would not neglect that at all.
And Mike Church, if I may, this is Mike Greenberg. Just to further enhance what Brother Twyble said, on SCLI, we are weekly and every 2 weeks sometimes twice a week, having meetings regarding what curriculum can we get in our undergraduates and our alumni's hand. You saw COVID-19, Mission 365 virtual is being released. There was also a discussion last week amongst our board members who come from higher ed, who have developed curriculums, have worked with colonies. Is there anything we could be offering more to the undergraduate chapters and using our regional consultants to help provide that information with our trained alumni facilitators? And rest assured, we have already had an ideation of a few ideas come forward. And if we can do that in an efficient, professional, high quality manner, we will get that out the door as soon as and quickly as we can. Doesn't necessarily have to come from KTLW, could come through a secondary process right after KTLW, and we're exploring all those options.
Well, I'm so glad that you answered that question, Mike, because that was the next question that I had up in the panel that I was going to send over to you. So you just knocked off 3 questions in the panel, and I'm very grateful for that expediency. I'm going to send one over to Brother Hester. If you could just clarify the number of questions in the question panel about juniors who were accepted this year, and whether there's any applicability for them next summer. And then also those who will still be eligible next summer for the program, will they need to reapply or will they automatically be accepted next summer?
Thanks, Mike. For those who are going to receive a letter, those who have at least another 2 years of school left or more, they are automatically accepted into next summer. Just want to reiterate, those who were accepted this year, who have 2 to 3 years of school left, are automatically in one of next summer's, at least now, 5 sessions. The only caveat is we're asking those brothers to select one of those sessions prior to February 1st. So that way, depending on how many sessions we have, we know how many slots we have available for new applicants. For those who will be graduating next year, we unfortunately don't have an opportunity to bring them back as young alumni for the session. So we are developing something special for those brothers, the 59 of them. Again, we can't give them the Horizons experience because it's so interactive on the mountain, that's particularly those first 6 days of Horizons, which is the Huntsman Leadership Summit. But there's certain things that we do during the Huntsville Leadership Summit in large groups that are not small group and so interactive, that we're going to be able to tailor those to kind of an e-learning situation. And we will have our same qualified guides and coordinators deliver those in this type of format to those who will be graduating next year that were accepted for this summer. I hope that answers the question.
I think more than adequately, Brother Hester, and I appreciate that. I want to again, I think that we're getting some more questions about COVID, so let me just kind of recap that again. We have a series of webinars coming forward in the next couple of weeks, and those will extend through the rest of May and into June about various specific subjects that we're going to do deep dives in. So we're getting questions about preparing houses for reopening in the fall. We're getting questions about what can we do to help our house corporations if membership is lighter in the fall than anticipated. We're getting questions about what to do in the situation where a university doesn't reopen and our chapter can't physically return. So let me just put it this way: all the COVID questions. Obviously, everything remains in flux, and there's so much that is still to be determined as far as what the fall and next academic year might look like. So the webinars that we're putting together in terms of the next month or so is going to be putting together the best guidance that we can right now. And that's obviously going to be subject to change as the federal governments, the state and province governments, and our universities all make decisions relative to their own environments. And so as those decisions are made, that the picture will become clear for Sigma Chi and our chapters and our house corporations. I will tell you this from a financial standpoint. The executive committee met last weekend, and one of the things we discussed, and I'm gonna give a nod to Brother Sanderson because this was his terminology. No chapter or house corporation left behind. That's a very specific mantra that the executive committee is going to be beating as we go forward over the course of the next couple of months. We do not want to lose a single house corporation asset or a single chapter due to financial difficulties stemming from COVID. So we're looking at all kinds of various financial scenarios, from low-cost loans to assistance to our house corporations through the Risk Management Foundation and CHI and their leadership to help house corporations prepare for reopening their facilities in the fall. They have a partnership with ServiceMaster, which is a continent-wide high-quality company that will be well prepared to do deep cleaning of chapter houses and prepare them to be fully sanitized for our members, and so on and so on and so on. So all of this information on COVID is going to come out over the next couple of weeks. So tonight we really wanted to focus on our summer events. We recognize that COVID is the thing that's underpinning all of this, and so we're gonna keep our eyes and ears peeled for the best guidance we possibly can. Also want to give a shout out to Jacob Ball, who's on the webinar tonight. Jacob is a Tulane 2012 graduate. Is currently working for the U.S. Army's Public Health Division, and he joined us last week for the executive committee meeting. He's earned a PhD in epidemiology, and his job for the U.S. Army Public Health is to provide recommendations to do data modeling for the U.S. Army and to do recommendations for how the U.S. Army can open their bases to non-essential personnel. A lot of parallels to Sigma Chi chapters, and we really appreciate Jacob coming on and giving that guidance for us. So brothers, I'm going to move on from the COVID talks, and we'll go back to our summer event schedule. And I'll start. Let's see, what's a good question here? Let's see. You know what? Let's go back to maybe Brother Greenberg. You can address any issues we may have had with the Bell chapter program, if there's been any adjustments to that, or any thoughts about the Bell chapter program as we roll into this year and beyond.
Boy, I would love to answer that in specifics. I know the foundation has been looking at that in earnest about how and what the new Bell chapter program will look like. I'd probably have to defer and put it as a placeholder for our executive leadership to get back to you on that question with specifics on what will be reshaped. I will tell you there's more and more programs that we're developing in SCLI that will be offered at no charge. So the bang for the buck has never been greater. and just rest assured that it's all hands on decks to make sure that, as Brother Sanderson said, nobody's left behind. And let's take that as a note, I think, and funnel that up to get some specifics back to those brothers that have that question.
Absolutely, Mike. I'm going to punt one to Brother Sanderson. There's a question this year about the Peterson Award. I know that you've been tasked with leading some of that from the executive committee's perspective. So wondering if you might comment on the status of the Peterson Award for 2019 and 20.
Sure. The executive committee discussed it last weekend, and we received the initial report from staff as far as the annual reports and the data that we collected. Obviously, many of the chapters were struggling because of the gap with the shutdowns, so they were missing some information. So what we've decided to do, and we're in the process of fine-tuning it, is to go back to our chapters and seek some qualitative or quantitative information. Sorry, qualitative information. The data we have now is not sufficient, so we're going to ask more essay type questions to get a flavor of how the chapters have adapted during these uncertain times, and how they did, and what maybe they wish they had done this year that they didn't do. And we want to get a better understanding of how the chapters operated, and have them put it into their own words as opposed to ticking boxes. So we're still in the we're still working out the details on that. We've got a committee we're putting together. Our Grand Consul is appointing a subcommittee to fine tune that, and then we'll be sharing information out in the coming weeks as far as that process. The plan is that we would be giving our chapters an extension until June 30th to complete this revised application.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. Let's see. Brother Schuyler, I'm wondering if you might comment just on the status of the spring pledges and what our plans for them might look like.
Mike, we have about 800, 850 pledges that haven't been initiated.
That's right, correct.
We are putting together a program that as soon as we can determine what the status is of universities that are closed and universities that are open, how we can get all those young men initiated. More on that in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's right on. We had previously issued that the guidance that we wanted our chapters to be fully prepared to initiate their pledges as soon as possible. We don't obviously want to leave those young men lingering, our future brothers lingering out there any longer than they need to. And so I think we want our chapters to be out there preparing to initiate those guys as soon as possible and bring them and welcome them into the brotherhood as they are so deserving. Okay, let's see. We got a lot of questions here. Let's talk about strategic planning and the possibility of chapter advisors bringing strategic planning back to the chapters if we can't do a full integration into the workshop model. I'm not sure if that's a Twyville, Cogdill, or Greenberg question, but maybe one of you can handle that.
I'll just be brief. We'll figure out the strategic planning so we have a way of getting that done for you.
You were so brief, you didn't give me an opportunity to look at my next question.
I can elaborate. It's obviously important to a lot of the chapter advisors, the grand paraders. I know it's important to the executive committee because they pay attention how chapters are improving. It's come up a number of times, whether it's KTLW or Quarantine Croc working on it or SCLI staff working on it. We'll get that delivered so that we have a way for you guys to have a legitimate virtual strategic planning session before you start the school year, either virtually or in person. We'll just get it done.
Awesome, thank you. Tim, I'm gonna go back to you about Grand Council, just a number of logistical questions about how people might be able to access becoming a guest for Grand Council.
For there's 2 meetings. For the fall meeting, we'll be sharing that out to the membership, and it'll be a first come first serve for those 1,000 seats, and it'll be recorded. So I think that it should allow, if you're really interested, I think you just need to sign up early for that piece. We haven't even set a date for it. As far as the special meeting, it really depends on the technology, and from my understanding, it's a limited number, and that meeting will be very short. The primary business item that will be public would be an address from our Grand Council, and that will be captured on video and shared out if you're not able to join.
Excellent, thanks, Tim. And any plans when we eventually get to the regular session of Grand Council on the legislative changes that have been introduced? Is there going to be any additional legislative changes brought forward?
Not at this point. We've already shared those out to members of Grand Council, and none of them are what we consider to be more housekeeping items, and we're hoping we can deal with those in a timely manner. So, but there's nothing confrontational or concerning at this point.
Awesome, thank you. I have a question here just about preparing our chapters for initiation in the fall, not so much in the sense of the logistical preparations, but how do we get them prepared to actually do initiation, which obviously requires our men to be together in a very close proximity in light of what we anticipate in the fall with social distancing requirements still being in front of us. I'm wondering if any of you feel comfortable addressing or just offering some comments on that. Don't all speak at once.
Mike, I think more guidance on that will be coming out in the next few weeks as well. Obviously, the social distancing issues have to be maintained, but again, we know how important this is, and it'll go hand in hand with our decision how we get these young men initiated.
Right on. I think that was going to be my answer too. So we are of like minds. Jim or Jeff, can you comment on any platforms that the e-learning for VKTLW will be run on?
Jim, I'll just set the table and I'll let you speak to it since you're the man with the plan. It was really, really important to us that when we move into this venture, that we use the top of the line, the world-class technologies, and frankly, we didn't want to leave it to error. We wanted to make sure that whatever LMS system we were using had all the tools, capabilities, but more importantly, was easy to navigate and use to minimize error. And we think we found the right, well, we don't think, we know we found the right platform because that is the preferred platform for all the major institutions. And I'll turn it over to Jim to speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so off of what Brother Twyble said, we wanted to make sure that moving forward, both with the executive committee and Sigma Chi Leadership Institute, that we were bringing forward a learning management tool that our undergraduates were familiar with. And so the decision that we are working toward finalization on is to partner with the Canvas learning management system, which is the industry leader in delivering online education to higher ed institutions. Again, as Mike Greenberg had mentioned previously on the call, we are taking major strides toward educational enhancement and really making sure that the offerings that we provide our undergraduates are authentic and are true to form. And the way we're going to do that is to be able to offer the best. We certainly view as SCLI, the Fraternity Executive Committee discussed this past weekend, and in collaboration with Team Kroc, that this is the best we can bring forward for our brothers, and one that they'll be familiar with, and really align with what they do in their online learning in their host universities. So again, we're working forward on finalizing that contract. And then another piece that we're all very accustomed to now is working on Zoom meeting integration with Canvas. We are going to do obviously work on the security aspect, so nobody gets Zoom bombed. We don't want to mess with any of that. So we certainly will be working, but we are also know that it is the most effective online meeting tool out there that fits hand in hand with the Canvas LMS. So those are the two pieces that we are moving very quickly to finalize as we work up to this May 15th registration deadline.
Thank you, brothers. Brother Schuyler, I'm going to go to you for a more esoteric question. How can alumni help our undergraduates in this environment? Is there a way that they might be able to step forward and take a bigger role in guiding Sigma Chi through this difficult time?
Mike, there's never been a time when alumni involvement in our undergraduate chapters has been more important. Obviously, the social distancing challenges we have create, realistic, obstacles to making that happen. But I would advocate that not only alumni chapters to stay in touch with their own members, but our alumni brothers, avail themselves of whatever opportunity that they have to interact and support individual undergraduate members online and in the virtual world. Brothers, this will pass. In another semester, this will all be in our rearview mirror, hopefully, and we'll not be having these conversations. In the meantime, we're going to find creative means that we can enjoy everything, and the reason why we're happy that we want to be Sigma Chi's at the beginning with.
Awesome. Thank you, Grand Consul Schuyler. I'm going to go another question for either Brother Greenberg, Cogdill, or Twyble. This is about integrating chapter advisors or chapter members of chapter advisors boards or other alumni from those chapters into the sessions, the virtual sessions for chapter officer training or things of that sort. And any thoughts on integrating alumni into those sort of planning sessions?
Are you referring to a chapter breakout planning session or into the officer specific small group sessions?
Why don't we tackle both of those, since I'm sure we're going to get a question now that you asked that question.
Well, if we're going to use the normal analogy of a workshop, clearly we have our faculty teams by officer. And so those are comprised of specially trained facilitators that are subject matter experts for that specific discipline. So in that case, no, there would not be a provision per se of having chapter advisors or additional alumni support volunteers be a part of those sessions per se. All that being said, though, one of the goals and intentions of Quarantine Croc is to make sure that you're aware of the content that's being taught. You're aware of you have access to it, so you could see this is what was discussed and these are the core deliverables and learning objectives for each of those sections, and those can be made available to you if there's interest there. Going back to the original question though about a specific chapter breakout time, I'm gonna refer back to Brother Greenberg's answer that this is in development and in discussion, and once we have that plan solidified, we'll be able to roll that out to all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I would say well said. And given the questions on strategic planning tonight, and Brother Cogdill and I have been communicating as we're speaking right now, we're fast moving. That might be the venue where once the officers are trained like they've never been trained before by Quarantine Croc and the facilitators, then we can migrate in, okay, now with the knowledge you bring to the executive committee and to your chapter, what are the issues you need to focus on? And let's bring all the alumni and everybody in and have another series of sessions that people could attend that focuses on developing their strategic plans before they launch their virtual school or real school.
And just to add on to that, with all of our chapter advisors having licenses onto our learning management system, we certainly can provide them all of the asynchronous modules into their learning queue, so that they're seeing exactly what our officers are seeing, and they can remain consistent with all of the messages that are happening within those modules. So there'll be a lot of content there, 4 modules per officer, but the chapter advisors want that to be able to align their messages with their chapters. We certainly can provide that as well.
Correct.
Just getting a rather sidebar question that I'll just address really quickly. Just a question about the Harvard issue. I'll just address that from a very quick standpoint. We are still actively in litigation there. We continue to put the gas to the floor. Can't comment on much of it because it's all confidential in terms of the legal proceedings. But we are still in the discovery phase, which for those not in the legal realm or are familiar with what that means, Effectively, that means we have requested a bunch of information from Harvard in terms of responses to questions and documents that we believe they have, and we are actively in the process of going through that part of the process. They will have their turn as well to submit their requests of the plaintiffs, which is the position that we are in the litigation, and that process will play out from there. We expect this to be a multiple year effort, so we don't be expecting frequent updates on this. That's just the way the legal world happens. Everything just takes a little bit of extra time. So we'll keep you abreast of any major developments with the issue, and rest assured we're going to keep fighting and advocating for our rights, both in the courtroom as well as in federal legislation that we're pushing in the United States to help prevent this from any other campus from doing the same thing. I want to go back to the mental health. We got a couple more questions on the mental health issue. So we could roll the slide back to the announcement of Sigma Chi's Strong Arms program, the COVID-19 version. If you guys get a moment for that. I'm going to punt it over to Brother Greenberg and Cogdell to talk just broadly about our mental health efforts. Maybe you could touch on the Reach Out app and our Strong Arms program and things of that sort while we're getting that slide pulled up.
And Jim, go ahead. Your staff did an incredible job of putting this together so that every brother that needed to see some slides and a holistic approach to mental health could get it very quickly, and it's available right now for every brother. So Jim.
Yeah, so obviously with the circumstances out there, we wanted to make sure that we were very responsive to provide some education and guidance, both from the resource side, but also from, just everybody's kind of going through this together. This is for undergraduates and alumni. So it is a mental health resource for both. As Mike Church mentioned earlier, the education pulls straight from our undergraduate e-learning, the 6-course Strong Arm e-learning module. So all of it is backed by and provided by the Jed Foundation. The two people who were primary architects on this from our staff, Ali Kalina and Jared Lager-Massini, along with Bob Rabe, all have extensive backgrounds in working with mental health. Ali Kalina is a mental health counselor certified, and they really teamed together to make sure that this is a very concise and efficient and effective resource that we could get out there on a a very quick time frame and turnaround. The big takeaway from this, if any of our brothers are feeling overwhelmed and need further help, is really kind of guiding that next step toward the Reach Out app. And we certainly encourage everyone to go to their iPhone, the Apple Store, or their Android Store, Google Play, and download the Sigma Chi Reach Out app, because that really has all of the further extending resources in terms of the SAMHSA immediate helpline. As a fraternity, we were very intentional about moving away from the Sigma Chi Lifeline to this Reach Out app, because it can offer so many robust local numbers and resources that our undergraduates can utilize 24/7. Really this is a good resource. The COVID-19 Strong Arms PowerPoint is a resource to, if you need guidance now, but also if you need further assistance from mental health professionals, they are the experts, and the Strong Arm Reach Out app can get you in contact with them immediately. So those are really kind of the two main takeaways and outcomes if you were to go through this resource that you see on your screen right now, and we encourage everybody to take advantage of it if needed.
Thank you, Jim. And just also a comment too, the executive committee took up an initial discussion this past weekend on the concept of possibly having a wellness chair at each of the chapters. And so there's further discussion that needs to happen on that for all kinds of various reasons. But thank you to Brother Don Hester for the reminder on that as well. A question for Brother Sanderson, just an update on the selection of the International Balfour Award.
Sure. We have 17 nominations for the award. The committee is just beginning the vetting process of those applications, and there's a subcommittee that will be vetting those and narrowing it down to 3 finalists. And the 3 finalists will be selected in the time frame of workshop. As to how we're going to do that piece, that's still to be determined as far as how the interview process and the announcement will be done. So that, stay tuned for that piece, but we are beginning the review process of the applications. Again, it's 17.
Awesome, thanks, Tim. We are running up against the hour, and I want to give our panel some time just to offer just a few closing comments. First, I want to give a quick update on the campaign that went around earlier this week, which is from the Sigma Chi Foundation, Brothers Helping Brothers Fund. Brothers, if you're so inclined to help our younger brothers in need during this difficult time as a result of difficulties they're experiencing as a result of COVID-19, please go to sigmachi.org/foundation. You'll find the information there on how to donate to the Brothers Helping Brothers Fund and to be able to help out each other. So please consider doing that if you're so inclined and able to do so. We did raise $14,000 on Tuesday on Tuesday Giving Now, which was great. There's an even bigger need out there, and we need brothers to step up. So if you can and you're so inclined, please go to sigmachi.org/foundation and look to help the Brothers Helping Brothers Fund. Brothers, I'm going to close with giving each of our panelists time to just sort of offer some closing comments. We're going to finish going up the ladder, so we'll give Brother Sanderson and Skylar the last remarks on that. We'll start in reverse order of the introductions tonight. Let me start with Brother Twyble, if you'd like to just offer some closing comments.
Sure thing. Well, first off, thank you, Brother Church, for coordinating this time. I think the communication right now is so mission critical to be able to keep our brotherhood together and ultimately keep us moving forward to solutions as we deal with these uncertain times. I want to make sure that all of our undergraduates know that whereas we can't meet in person at workshop this year, we are putting every bit of effort that we have to ensure that you have the best workshop experience possible. And I again want to commend all the amazing members of Quarantine Croc and our steering committee who's worked countless hours over the last 3 weeks juggling families and home and work just to make this happen. So please give it the due respect and attention and focus that you would any other workshop, because what you put into it is ultimately what you are going to take away and hopefully better yourselves as leaders and as chapters. I do want to leave this, and in speaking with the executive committee for my home chapter the other week, obviously people are a little bit shell-shocked a little bit, and what are we going to do and how are we going to work through this? And I want to make sure I convey that transformational leaders are those that take the opportunity to open their minds and expand what they think is possible during critical and difficult times. And it's in these moments that that leaders really expose who they are. And are they ones that solve the problems and help their brothers and bring people together, or do they wither away? And what I'm most proud of in the chapters that I've seen and experienced is that they're taking this moment seriously to really think about the way they operate and to find new ways to be the best chapter possible in any type of environment. So that's my challenge to you. Keep it up. Know that we're all here for you, and all you have to do is reach out, and you have our strong arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Twyble. Thanks for your time tonight. Brother Cogdell.
I just really want to offer gratitude for everybody, who is in attendance on the call tonight, but offer gratitude for anybody who will serve Sigma Chi and Sigma Chi Leadership Institute over the course of the next year. Certainly there's a lot of uncertain times going out around us right now, and it's going to take everybody. It's going to take an entire fraternity of volunteers, staff members, and undergraduates to carry us through and bring us back to the normalcy and bring us back to what we're used to, which is that in-person and brotherhood connection that we all love and is the reason why we joined this organization. On behalf of Sigma Chi Leadership Institute, and Mike Greenberg had mentioned it earlier, I promise you that we are not stopping in our pursuit to keep Sigma Chi the preeminent leadership development brotherhood and organization. And we are very, very excited that of what we're on the precipice of offering all of our undergraduates. And that's going to take all of our operating boards and our undergraduates to really make this as great of an experience as it will be. And not even a pandemic is going to stop us from getting there, and is going to halt our journey to get us there. So just know that great news amidst this abyss of what seems like worse news by the day. There's hope coming, and we are going to continue to deliver that in droves when we get back together in person with you. And we're going to provide you the greatest Sigma Chi experience that we can offer and that you could ever hope for. So thank you for everything tonight and moving forward into the future. And we look forward to continue serving you as Sigma Chi Fraternity and Sigma Chi Leadership Institute.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Brother Hester.
Thanks, Brother Church. Although I'm somewhat skeptical, very skeptical actually, of Bible teaching faculty members how to use technology, I would say that I am so proud of our executive committee to have the courage to make these very tough decisions. That's what leadership is all about. You're exemplifying the type of leadership that all Sigma Chi should be. Sigma Chi is a relationship organization. It's really what we are. And social distancing cannot keep us from developing these great, strong, enduring relationships. Last summer at workshop, we introduced a value-based decision-making model, which is nothing more than basically utilizing our ritual. And there's no better time than a time like right now, when there's a pandemic, for us to really step up, utilize what we have through that model, through our ritual, and truly be what we know we are, the leaders that the world needs. And we have proven in the last few months, and will prove in the next few months, that we are needed now more than ever. And I just have faith that together we will step up and we will make a difference, not only in the fraternity, but in the world.
Well said, Brother Hester. Brother Greenberg, Chairman of our Sigma Chi Leadership Institute.
Well, thanks everyone for allowing me to be a small participant in this meeting, and thanks to our executive committee for having the foresight to continue the communication to our undergrads, our alumni, and all the brothers that make up Sigma Chi. We're taught that Sigma Chi is not a pandemic time period, but it's a lifelong commitment. And this pandemic will pass, and our lifelong journey of being transformational leaders and being the best brothers we can be in Sigma Chi will continue. And so it's a moment in time that causes us to focus inward, maybe use different types of way to communicate out to our friends and brothers around the country that have become an extension of our family at times. And what I would ask everyone to do is enjoy this moment, as stressful as it can be, being sheltered in. I'm now going on 57 days. Hug your kids if you have kids, reach out to brothers that you haven't talked to, reestablish local chapter connections, and ask everyone that when we come back, roaring back, we're going to need everybody, all hands on deck, to help us get to the vision of creating such a differentiator in the lives of our members that we will change again the face of fraternity. I ask that each one right now practice empathy and compassion with our light of value of courtesy, so that we can move forward, helping others out, business people out, our families out, and just stay connected to one another, especially during this time. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, stay safe.
You got it. Well done, Mike. All right, Grand Proconsul Tim Sanderson.
Sure, I'll be brief. I want to start off by just saying thank you to the brothers on this panel and to all the brothers behind the scenes who've done some really heavy lifting to get us to this point. It was a huge challenge that we threw on your laps to pivot and to create these virtual learning tools and programs and it's just unbelievable what you've done, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. we've been challenged here. We're now entering a new normal. We don't know what that finally is going to become. But out of that, I think it's an opportunity for us to take it to the next level, and you guys have really risen to that challenge. I'm excited to see where this goes. But as what Mike said, we need to make a pause and make sure that we reflect during this time. I know everybody's think we're worried about being contained in one spot. It's also an opportunity for us to take a pause, put the pause button on, and figure out what's most important in life, and do that. Look around your house, the people that you share your life with, and make sure you let them know that you care about them, and spend that quality time, because we're going to get back to our busy lives. We won't have that time to be able to do those little things. So I know everybody's annoyed by that, but in the long run, you'll appreciate this time. I'm confident the best is yet to come for Sigma Chi. There's some incredible programs here. Really, we need to make sure that we reach out to our brothers. There are brothers out there that are struggling and that are hurting, and we need to be there to support them, to make sure everybody takes it to the next level, and our brotherhood and Sigma Chi continue to grow and be the best fraternity on this earth. So very proud, and be well, brothers.
Well said.
Thank you, Tim. And we will finish up with our worthy Grand Consul, Brother Schuyler.
Brothers, first I'd like to say thank you not only to our panelists, but everyone who's shared time with us today on this town hall. Brothers, these are difficult times, and whether you're a member of the executive committee, you're a member of your chapter leadership, alumni leadership, or just a brother, this is a time when character and leadership are called and are really come to the forefront and are extremely important. We will get, as I mentioned earlier, we will get through these challenges, and this all will be in our rearview mirror. I call on all of you to make the difficult decisions, do what is needed in both your chapter life and in your personal life to show leadership and show compassion, as Brother Greenberg mentioned. Show compassion and integrity in your everyday lives, and help everyone get through this very difficult time. And I'm going to pull a Twyble moment. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you, Brother Schuyler. I just want to underscore one more thing that it needs to be said here tonight. Brothers, we have had an incredible response from undergraduate brothers, and as their lives have just felt an incredible interruption as a result of COVID. And I'm very pleased to report that more than 90% of Sigma Chi chapters have continued to conduct virtual chapter meetings, and more than 95% of our chapters have continued to conduct virtual executive board meetings. We are so blessed to have undergraduate leaders who are committed to the cause of Sigma Chi and have the flexibility, versatility, and vision to be able to push their chapters forward and their brothers forward through what is an unprecedented time in their lives and in all of our lives. So I want to make sure that that tonight we recognize the heroes of Sigma Chi who are out there doing this on a daily basis, pushing Sigma Chi forward, and you all, the young men, they'll be the next generation of leaders in Sigma Chi. You will have built the resilience and an adaptability that is unparalleled in the history of Sigma Chi, and we look forward to accepting your leadership into the future of the international fraternity. Brothers, thank you for everyone who took the time tonight to join us. Thank you to our most esteemed panel of guests who helped us understand what we're doing with our summer events and so on. Everybody except Twyble, of course. Brothers, thank you for your time tonight. We'll be seeing all of you again very soon once this COVID is past us. And thank you for the time. Thank you for your commitment to Sigma Chi. Have a good evening, brothers. Take care.